In 1965, a man paid cash for a coffin he had no intention of being buried in. This wasn't a crime. It was a workaround, because in California, selling a coffin without a death certificate was illegal, and George Barris needed that coffin, not to bury the dead, but to build something that would never die. The Dragula wasn't just a television prop. It was a 350-horsepower, fiberglass-bodied, fully functional drag racing machine, built in 3 weeks on a $15,000 budget for a single episode of a sitcom about monsters. And that single episode would generate more merchandising revenue, more cultural staying power, and more automotive influence than the studio ever calculated. This is the story of how a backdoor coffin deal became one of the most consequential custom car builds in Hollywood history, and why the decisions made inside Barris Custom Industries in 1965 still echo through car culture 60 years later. The year is 1965. The Munsters is entering its second season on CBS. The show's premise is simple: a family of classic movie monsters, Frankenstein's creature, a vampire grandfather, a werewolf son, living in suburban California. But the producers have a problem. The Munster coach, the family's signature vehicle, is getting stale. It appeared in nearly every episode of Season 1. Audiences have seen it. Merchandising has plateaued. The show needs a new visual hook. Enter Episode 36, Hot Rod Herman. The premise is engineered for spectacle. Herman Munster loses the family car in a drag race. To win it back, Grandpa must build a faster machine from scratch in the family garage, using salvaged parts and Gothic ingenuity. The script calls for a coffin-shaped dragster, and here's where the story pivots from television production into something far more interesting: the collision of creative ambition, legal obstacles, and the resourcefulness that defined custom car culture in its golden era. Because building a coffin car sounds simple on paper, in practice, it required Barris Custom Industries to solve a problem no Hollywood prop department had ever faced. Richard "Corky" Corks was George Barris's project engineer. The Dragula assignment landed on his desk with the same casual impossibility. The studio wanted a functional coffin dragster. They wanted it in 3 weeks, and they wanted it to actually run. Corks started making calls. Coffin manufacturers wouldn't sell directly. Their distribution channels ran exclusively through licensed funeral homes. In 1965 California, funeral industry regulations prohibited the sale of burial caskets without accompanying death documentation. Corks identified a funeral home in North Hollywood willing to negotiate. The terms were simple. The coffin would be placed outside the funeral home's rear service entrance after business hours. Barris's crew would retrieve it under cover of darkness. Why take that risk? The answer illuminates something essential about Barris's operation. By 1965, George Barris had built the Batmobile, the Beverly Hillbillies truck, and dozens of other screen vehicles. His shop was the recognized center of Hollywood automotive fabrication. A funeral director helping Barris wasn't just making a sale. He was becoming a footnote in custom car history. The Dragula's design originated with Tom Daniel: elongated coffin body, exposed engine forward of the driver, tombstone grille, organ pipe exhaust stacks. But rendering and reality are different disciplines. Converting Daniel's drawing into a functional vehicle required Corkus and the Barris fabrication team to solve 3 interdependent engineering problems. Problem 1. Chassis integration. The fiberglass coffin shell had no structural floor, no mounting points, and no provisions for drivetrain components. The team fabricated a custom tubular steel frame, essentially a front-engine dragster chassis, and bonded the coffin body to it using fiberglass matting and resin. Problem 2. Power plant packaging. The script called for Grandpa to build the car from junkyard parts. Corkus selected a Ford 289 cubic inch small block V8, producing approximately 350 horsepower in race configuration. The engine was mounted forward, ahead of the driver compartment, with 2 4-barrel carburetors on a Mickey Thompson ram thrust manifold. The carburetors were mounted backward to clear the coffin's interior width, a modification that required converting the throttle actuation from pull type to push type, the kind of adaptation that separates functional builds from static props. Problem 3. Driver ergonomics. The coffin's internal dimensions dictated a rear-seated driving position, placing the driver behind the engine and differential. This configuration, common in contemporary rail dragsters, created visibility challenges and concentrated mechanical risk directly beneath the driver's seat. spider-themed hubcaps, antique lantern lighting, and a clear plexiglass bubble canopy over the driver. The front grille was a marble tombstone inscribed with Grandpa Munsters' fictional birth date. Born 1367. Died? Total build time, 21 days. Hot Rod Herman aired May 27, 1965, as the Season 2 finale. The episode's drag racing sequence was filmed at Lyons Drag Strip in Long Beach, a real racing facility renamed Mockingbird Heights Drag Strip for continuity purposes. The sequence gave audiences something unprecedented: a functional Hollywood prop performing genuine quarter-mile runs on a real drag strip. The Dragula wasn't simulating speed, it was achieving it. This merchandising velocity created a feedback loop. The Dragula appeared in the show's Season 2 end credits. When Universal greenlit a theatrical film, Munster Go Home, the car was written into the plot as a featured vehicle. For the film, the production team modified the original build. The plexiglass bubble was removed to accommodate Fred Gwynn's 6'5" frame. The rear suspension was reinforced. A roll bar was added. These modifications reflected something the original build hadn't anticipated. The Dragula was becoming a recurring asset, not a one-episode prop. Its screen value was compounding. The financial calculus of the Dragula build reveals the asymmetric returns that defined Barris's business model. Initial construction cost, $15,000, approximately $154,000 in current value. The studio paid this as a line-item production expense, expecting to amortize the cost across a single episode. Instead, the vehicle generated revenue across multiple channels for decades. Merchandising. AMT model kit sales across 50-plus years of production. Johnny Lightning die-cast releases. Slot car adaptations. Collectible tin editions. Conservative estimates place cumulative licensing revenue in the low millions. Auction market. At Mecum Kissimmee in January 2022, one of the original Barris builds sold for $473,000, a 30-fold return on construction cost, realized 57 years after the initial build. But the more significant impact was reputational, not financial. The Dragula established a template that Barris would replicate across subsequent decades. Build functional vehicles for screen use, retain or license merchandising rights, and leverage screen exposure into exhibition and collectible revenue streams. Rob Zombie titled a song Dragula on his 1998 album Hellbilly Deluxe. The track became his signature single, charting internationally and introducing the vehicle to audiences born decades after the original broadcast. Zombie later directed a Munsters reboot film in 2022, explicitly acknowledging the Dragula's influence on his creative identity. This is the compounding effect that separates iconic builds from forgotten props. The Dragula accumulated cultural capital across generations, each reference amplifying the original and generating new entry points for discovery. Barris Custom Industries built 5 Dragula vehicles for the original production, multiple copies to accommodate simultaneous filming, promotional appearances, and backup coverage for mechanical failure. The existence of multiple authentic vehicles, rather than a single hero car, complicates valuation, but also ensures survival. If one build is damaged or destroyed, others remain. The Dragula exists as a distributed archive, its authenticity verified through documentation rather than singularity. This redundancy was accidental, a byproduct of production logistics, but it has functioned as a preservation strategy. 60 years after construction, multiple Dragula vehicles remain displayable and, in some cases, operational. The Dragula began as a solution to a television production problem: how to inject novelty into a second-season sitcom without exploding the budget. It became something else entirely: a case study in resourceful fabrication, a proof of concept for screen vehicle merchandising, a cultural artifact that outlived its source material by decades and continues generating value in markets that didn't exist when it was built. The backdoor Coffin deal that made it possible wasn't just clever logistics. It was a preview of the improvisation and risk tolerance that would define Barris's entire operation, and, by extension, the golden age of Hollywood custom car fabrication. If this breakdown changed how you see television props, automotive history, or the economics of screen vehicles, consider subscribing. We're building a library of deep dive content on the machines that shaped visual culture, the engineering, the business decisions, and the stories that don't make it into the 30-second clip packages. Next episode, we're examining the Batmobile build, the 15-day deadline, the Lincoln Futura chassis, and why that single commission made George Barris's reputation permanent. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next one.